Welcome, everyone. I'm your host, Russell Chowdhury. So today we have our special guest on this episode, Ali D. So she is a life coach, like introduced herself earlier of this podcast. So how are you today, Ali? Thanks for your time. And I know you have a busy schedule. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much for having me on. Today is going wonderfully. So I'm very privileged to be able to be on here with you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So obviously, I have introduced our audience, like who you are and what you've been up to. But you can still like introduce yourself, like what you're doing at the moment, how you're helping others achieving their goals. So if you'd like to share a few things.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, I'm a life coach and
Yeah.
I help, female entrepreneurs, specifically network marketers,
Hmm.
really just overcome the inner struggles that they have to reach the success they're looking for in their business. And so part of that process starts with first defining what success means to them. So often we just get caught up in what we see influencers or our mentors or other people around us, our society is telling us what is successful. I know I fell into that thinking I needed a luxury car. And, granted, there's nothing wrong with those things, but when I finally defined what success meant for me, I
Yeah.
stopped chasing a lot of things that weren't really what I wanted.
Hmm.
So I help first identify what success is for these individuals, and then we work through, where their fears are coming from, or doubts, or limiting beliefs, and because we all have them, and we all have a
Yeah.
past in our life, no matter how traumatic or easygoing, like no matter what your past is, you still have one. And so we still work through those things to overcome them, because I have found that once you work on those personal limiting beliefs, you open up the doors to a whole host of like amazing
Yeah.
opportunities, right? Once you release those things. And so that's what I help with. And I just fully launched my one-on-one
Hmm.
coaching program about 6 weeks ago. So
Right.
that's been a really exciting journey. And then I'm just navigating through offering some smaller courses and other things, especially since, I am due with my fourth child soon.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Congratulations.
but I love helping women and seeing their aha moment
Yeah.
when they realize when they let go of something, the success that opens up for them.
Yeah. That's great. So is there something you really wanted to do when you was young, like you want to always help people achieving their goals? Is there something career you wanted to choose, or it just happened later on your life?
Yeah, it just came about. I struggled when I was growing up and in high school and college and my younger 20s. Like, what did I want to do with my life? I knew
Hmm.
kind of what I wanted my life to look like, but I didn't know how I wanted to get there, what I wanted to do for a career. I took multiple different types of college courses, and just tried a lot of things. I've always had a desire to help people. I've always
Yeah.
had a desire to have deeper connections with others. That's something that's just been a part of me since I was young. But again, I had no idea how I wanted to do that. So this
Hmm.
all came about through my own entrepreneur journey of trying different network marketing companies.
Right.
Because for me, the big thing was time freedom. I was tired of going to a 9 to 5 type job. I wanted to
Yeah.
work on my time. Um, and so I went on my own journey, and I had tried like a dozen network marketing companies within about 10 years on and off.
Right.
And then I had found an entrepreneur community that really helped mentor me, guide me to discovering. I just kind of had an epiphany one day that I want to help others that have struggled with network marketing overcome their limiting beliefs, because those are things that I realized that I
Yeah.
had that were really holding me back. And these limiting beliefs stemmed all the way from my childhood.
Hmm.
And some of them had only stemmed from a few years back where I was making poor decisions in my life.
So yeah. So you decided to like right now to help others, like a what decision you have made, bad choices you made, learn from it, and now
Yeah,
you're trying to encourage other people, like yeah, look, this is the mistake I have made, and I'll try to do overcome this and help you through this, just
exactly.
being a role model for them, isn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. And I always tell my clients, I'm not here to give you a quick fix. I'm not here to suddenly make your business work for you. I can't do that. They have to put in the work. But because I've gone before them, because I have made mistakes and I've tried many things and methods and strategies, I can certainly give them a path and kind of create a foundation for them to work upon, having learned the things not to do.
Yeah. Yeah, one thing like we talked about, like you had like a drug addiction you talked about, and I'm so proud of you. Like you wanted to share with the audience, there'll be like a great benefit. A lot of people wants to hide these things, and you opened up. You actually told me like you want to share these things. So how do you start like getting into them addiction? Is it like a circle of environment? Is like a people around you, or how did you get started and what age?
Yeah, so my addiction came about. So I grew up in like just, I don't want to call it a perfect family. No family is perfect, but I was really
Yeah.
blessed to grow up in a loving environment, nurturing. I am the last person that you would have thought would have fallen into drug abuse.
Okay.
But it started with a guy, right? Like that's just
Yeah.
typical female story. It started with this guy that I fell for. He was no good news.
Yeah.
But I didn't see it. And so I can't even tell you exactly what it is that caused me to use. It was just being, I think it was a multiple of factors. I just moved out of my parents' house. There was a little bit of tension there. I was on my own. I was kind of sheltered growing up. So
Right.
now I'm on my own in the world, and things that my parents had said, oh, those are horrible, right? You try it a little bit and then you're like, oh, it's not that bad. So then you
Yeah.
think the next thing isn't that bad. So that's the best way I can explain how I got caught up in it. And I ended up being a full-blown heroin, crack cocaine addict for on and off for about 6 years.
Right. It's a long
Um,
time.
yeah, and
So what
it
age did
was.
you started
I started when
getting
I was, yeah, I started playing around with like marijuana and pills when I was about 21, 22. And then by the time I was 23, I was shooting up heroin.
Right.
Yeah, and so again, it was on and off, like whenever the guy that I was with, because I was with him the whole time, he's the father of my
Yeah.
first two kids, which they are my saving grace. But anytime he would be arrested, right, I could
Yeah.
get cleaned up. So in some ways, looking back on it, yes, I do have an addiction to substances, but I was really addicted to the relationship, and it was the toxic relationship that I was most addicted to. And so for this November will make 5 years that I've been clean and
Right.
sober. And it really
Congratulations.
does,
Yeah.
thank you. It really does take changing your people, places, and things, they say. But it's more than that too. I mean, you can change your area where you're living and who you're hanging out with. It's a daily mindset battle, especially for the first little while.
Yeah.
I won't say I think about it every single day now, but there's still a mindset battle that comes with
Yeah.
it.
You have to have a solid, strong mindset. Even though we uh, do so many things like weekly goals, daily goals, we have trying to achieve those. Even though there's a simple things task like doing your bed or like going to gym or have like
Absolutely.
right meals, we still couldn't stick to it. Like doing for a 1 week, 2 week, then give up on that. But you stuck around with from addiction to removing it for 5 years clean. It's a great achievement. I just want to love to hear like how did you go from such a journey from there to like for quitting and staying clean for 5 years. So what's the process
Yeah.
like?
So the process was hard. I mean, the first
Yeah.
thing I did was I got out of the situation I was in. It got to a point for me where I knew that I was either going to die or I was going to lose my kids to, the system. And my kids were my life. They're my life. So I made the decision to up and leave. Now I'm very thankful I had family that I
Yeah.
could kind of escape to, that lived outside of the area, that welcomed me back with open arms. But when I came back to restart my life, I mean, it was just getting by minute at certain times. There
Yeah.
was many times where, what is the purpose of living? You're in this dark, deep depression. Is my life ever going to be normal again? Like, what is normal? Because when you're in a deep addiction, life just becomes insanity, and
Yeah.
your daily routines is really just insanity. So learning how to live a normal, so to speak, life is very weird and uncomfortable. And it's just, so that was a hard thing to face and to get through. But I I literally just, you have to have a strong mindset of just doing it each day. And if you're in any type of recovery group, they tell you one day at a time. But for me, again, I literally had to remind myself one moment at a time. Like sometimes you'd watch the clock and be like, I got through one more minute. And support is so important. And I'm thankful I've had a support group, but if someone doesn't have a support group, I mean, go find one, go to a church, go to meetings. Like there are people out there that will support you. You can reach out to me, you know, I'll give out my information at the end of this podcast, because nobody should feel alone in that, because it does take support. So that process was getting through that and staying focused on the ultimate goal, which was for me, not just to not keep using, right? That was a big goal, but to recreate a life for myself. So I very quickly got back into, you know, finding a job, getting back on my feet, getting my own place, and staying busy with productive things. That's when I got back into network marketing and tried multiple different avenues. And that's really important. And then I think the third part to it is helping others. While you're going through that, you may think I have nothing to offer someone because I'm still healing and working on things. But if you can find ways, again, through a church or community outreach or something to help others, it really boosts your self-confidence. And again, keeps you focused on something other than yourself, which is a huge help.
So do you think like your children made a most impact on yourself recovering from the addiction, like they being your motivator? Because when you said like when you look at them like, hey, you need to get out of it for them.
Yeah, I mean, my children definitely, had I not had them and felt like I was going to lose them, I probably would have stayed in that really toxic situation. So they're a huge reason. However, at the same time, I also used while I had my kids, you know, and I was a bad mom for a while. And so having kids doesn't mean that you're not going to use or that you can stop as easily. It really still comes down to your motivation and your determination to do it for you. Like I did it for my kids, but I had to do it for me in order for it to stick, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's a long process. Like you overcome this such encouragement, and your focus and mindset was on point, and you knew like what you want to achieve, and you gone at it and stuck around for a long time. And obviously, there's a lot of things to learn from. Like it's not easy things to do. Even though I don't have any kind of bad habits, I don't smoke, I don't drink anything like that, but still I find out sometimes getting out of it, like having a fast food or things like that. Sometimes get into the bad things. I like eating unhealthy meals sometimes. I still find trying to like stick sometime. Sometime I go for like a 3 to 6 months on a proper good healthy diet. Then after that 1 or 2 months, I just ruin everything. So even though
I'm telling you, those type of, you know, of eating fast food or going shopping or drinking soda, you know, all of those things, they are a type of addiction. Like I have a hard time not getting a fast food sandwich too. Sometimes you're hungry and having that willpower to say no if you're sticking to a diet or something. Now, granted, yes, they're viewed very differently between shooting up heroin and, you know, eating a fast food burger. But that's one of the things that I kind of teach in my course too, though, is that the mindset of it is pretty much the same. It's just a matter of what we're focused on and how much power we have to put behind it. But I have learned to apply so much of what I've learned in my recovery process to my everyday life and to anything that I want to change about myself or work harder at. A lot of the same principles come from what I learned through recovery.
So I know like you're really passionate about the topic we chose for this podcast, and obviously we covered a lot of it because of your story. Everything is resonating with the same thing. So it's like how powerful our thoughts are and how we can change our life by changing our thought patterns. So what do you want to talk about this, and how do you view yourself?
So with this specific topic, there's like a system that I've kind of created that I would love to share, you know, with those that are listening, and it's on how to change your thoughts, because just saying change your thoughts, right, sounds easy, but it's just like, well, where do I begin? So I created this process where the first thing that you have to do is you have to acknowledge whatever thought that comes up, whatever thought or emotion. So if you're I don't know if this happens to you, but sometimes I'm driving down the road and suddenly I feel overwhelmed by whatever's going on around me, right? Or stressed out or whatever. So I have this feeling, and it's our nature for most of us to just try and like push it aside, right? And that's why a
Yeah.
lot of us get caught up in addictions, because we just want to feel good. We want to get rid of negative emotions.
Yeah.
But if you have a negative emotion, you have to learn to acknowledge it and then to accept it. So that's like part 1 and 2. So you acknowledge that it's there. Okay, I recognize you. I'm feeling this way, and then accept it. It's okay to feel upset. I know
Yeah.
that like society, so often you're supposed to, hey, how you doing? Oh, I'm
Hide it.
good,
Yeah.
even
Yeah.
though you're not good, right? And it doesn't mean you get into your life with everyone, but it's okay to not be okay. So acknowledge the emotion that's coming up,
Yeah, it's
accept
like a
it.
sharing with the others, like whoever people you can trust or you like you comfortable feeling you share with. You rather share it. If you're feeling upset, you rather cry out. Like
Yeah,
you lost someone, your loved one, you lived with it 10 years, 20 years, like your parents or your spouse or something. All of a sudden, you lost them because right now is a COVID happened, and obviously,
absolutely.
yeah, it's allow you to like get all of your things out of your system, like a cry out. If you want to be upset for 1 month, 2 months, do it rather than keeping inside. Which I
Absolutely.
believe, yeah,
And the trick with that is allowing yourself to feel that emotion and to sit with it, but not like long enough so that you're dealing with it, but not so much that you're pulling yourself back in depression. Because
yeah,
sometimes we can hold on to an emotion and then 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever many months, right? We're just in this funk and this depression.
yeah,
So I go through a process of acknowledging it, accepting it. Then we're kind of just going to flip around the thought or the emotion, right? So for me, for example, a lot of
mm,
the negative emotions that would come up in some ways, and this sounds probably crazy to outsiders, but I would miss certain parts of my past life, not like the drug use and stuff, but again,
yeah,
I was kind of addicted to the relationship.
yeah,
And so I would miss certain parts of that. So a lot of my emotions was like almost like longing or mourning for someone that hadn't died, right? That
yeah,
you knew was still alive. So
yeah,
for me, then it was okay, I recognize this emotion, I accept this emotion. Now, how do I flip it so that instead of mourning for it and feeling depressed about it, I can look back
yeah,
on it just as a memory. That was a time of my life. That was, in a more positive light.
yeah. Learning
Um,
from the past, isn't it?
learning from the past,
Yeah,
exactly. And so maybe it is a situation though where you have lost a loved one, so instead of mourning the actual loss of that, and I've lost many loved ones in my life, I
yeah,
understand that pain, but try and look back on those good times, right? So whatever it is
yeah,
that you're feeling, try to find the positive in it, and it can be hard, but that's like the practice. And then you release it, right? you so
yeah,
you accept it, you acknowledge it, you accept it, you kind of retrain the thought, and then you release it, you let it go, and you go about your day. And this may happen to you 20 times a day, right? You
yeah,
may have to go through this process. And it depends on for what it's for, right? There's certain topics that I still do this, right? Maybe
mhm,
once a week on a certain topic. Sometimes I do have days where I'm constantly going through this pattern, but I've learned that I've been teaching others this pattern. And it's really, again, it's not a quick fix, but if you can learn to practice it and put it in your daily practice, you can really learn to let go of a lot of those things that hold you down, because
yeah.
you're acknowledging it, you're not just pushing it under the rug.
Yeah, definitely. It's not like a one-day fix because these things, the past memory of yours, the trauma you had, the sorrow, sadness, everything, the anxiety, the fear for future because of your past, it's not going to go within a one day
Absolutely.
because the system, our brain, and everything is learned from the past years and years. So obviously, it takes months and could be years for a different person is different.
Yes.
For my same things to change, like because I lost my parents in the age of 14, and both
Oh,
of them died on within 90 days a time of period.
oh my
And right
goodness.
now, if I lose someone, it's not going to be that hard compared to that time because the system and the pattern is gone because I already lost loved ones. So I know how to process things right now better than before.
Mhm.
But some people haven't lost anyone yet. They're probably 30 years old or 40 years old, and they never experienced that kind of loss. So for them, getting into the system could be take 5 years, 10 years. But obviously, if you improve
Absolutely.
yourself 1% a day, eventually you'll get there. And if you live like 70, 80, 90 years of age, at least wasting 5 years or 10 years being a sad, comparing to all of your life is much better, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm so sorry for your loss, and
No, it's okay.
but
Yeah,
yeah, but like you said, I mean, and everyone deals with grief differently,
yeah,
and we have to understand that one, we don't all deal with it the same way, and so that's why I realized this pattern though that I've kind of created. You can apply to anything, and
yeah.
anyone can go through it however it fits for them and it feels for them. Like I said, just the biggest thing is giving them permission to grieve. I think
Mm,
that is a big part. Or giving them permission to be angry or whatever that negative emotion is, because the world around us is we should be happy all the time, and
yeah,
that's just not realistic. That's not life.
no, yeah, you'll have a ups and down days. So obviously we have to be in between every single day.
Yes.
So the stress gonna come from work, stress gonna come from your family members, kids. There's life is imbalanced. Sometimes it's like right now is a COVID. Sometimes is a flood happening in all of the world, natural disaster. So you don't know what's on our way, or could be like we can get like a unhealthy disease or something. So,
Yeah.
yeah, life is
Just
uncertain.
learning to deal with life in a healthier way instead of relying on substances or bad habits
Yeah,
to fill that void.
yeah. And I found out like about 95% of the time, all of our problem is the reason is the thoughts, which one you talked about, and thoughts and the mindset is the most important thing with everything.
Oh
So all
yeah.
of them chaos, we're comparing with others, we're comparing with the past relationship, past failure, on where we're going to head in the future, uncertain future, or thinking about where we're going to achieve, wherever. So a lot of things in our thoughts and everything in our thoughts. So fearing our job,
Oh yeah.
even though we achieve some kind of success, then we are thinking of losing that. Some of them like
And
got
that's
Instagram followers like 200,000 or 1 million. They're thinking about, oh, my account get banned. So another fear is there, even though they achieve success.
it's so true. And we
Yeah,
dwell on these fears that may or may not even happen. And so that's another part of what I try and focus on. And I just teach what I practice,
yeah,
because I'm very much the mindset like, yes, I do think of things in the future, right? Because that's part of like planning. Okay, if this happens, what am I going to do? That's, you don't want to just go about life with your head in the sand, pretending everything's perfect.
yeah,
But at the same time, I've I focus on, okay, whatever the situation is, what can I control about it now? Right? If I can't control that situation, if I can't do anything to change it, right now,
yeah,
then that's not what I really need to be focused on. Again, it's
definitely.
you still have a plan, but I always try to stay focused on, all right, what is the situation? What can I do about it? And just focus on that, because you will drive yourself crazy
Yeah.
if, and unfortunately our country and
Mhm.
everything, we have so much depression
I
because
know.
people are so worried about everything all the time.
Yeah,
Sometimes it's for legitimate reasons, but it's, we need to stay focused on what we can do at the situation and make that change.
yeah, yeah, definitely. So do you want to say something for our audience, because we're gonna wrap up this podcast? I don't want to waste any of your valuable time. I know you're pregnant, so it's a
No,
Friday.
no problem. This has been so much
Yeah,
fun. Thank you so
yeah,
much. I just want to tell your audience, number one, again, thank you so much for having me and for those that have been listening in. And secondly, if anyone is out there, listening and is struggling with addiction, with depression, with any of these really hard things, I am not a counselor. Let me throw that out there, but
yeah,
I am here to help talk with you and guide you, because you should never feel alone in that process. And so if you are interested in learning more about some of the coaching I provide, or just need someone again to talk to, you can find me on Facebook. That's my most used platform. And it is Allison, Allison.Ford. It's my maiden name. So Ford
yeah,
dot number 1, number 8. So it's 18. So Allison.Ford.18. Shoot me a message anytime. I would love to connect with you. And again, thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure.
yes. Pleasure is mine, and our audience will be really grateful for your sharing your inspirational stories and your courage. And right now, wherever you're doing with your life, is a great achievement, to be honest. I'll leave a link of LED on the podcast below on YouTube channel also. So you can reach out to her if you need any help from her coaching or consultation. Always reach out and she can definitely help you guys. So thank you so much, Ali, for your valuable time. I really appreciate it for being on our show. And yeah,
Thank
I wish you
you.
good
Thank
luck.
you so much.
Thank you.
Bye.